As you guys know, the team at Podsworth Media has worked with me for a long time producing this show. A big part of that over the past couple of years has been them using their Podsworth app to make the audio sound clean, level, professional, even when the raw recordings were super sketchy, which mine can be sometimes. In fact, this one that you're listening to right now is super sketchy. I took this microphone sock off here just to show you how crappy it will sound. Except when they put it through the Podsworth app, it sounds beautiful. I've got this annoying white noise maker going on. It's driving me crazy. If you want to hear how bad this recording is before they put it through the Podsworth app, you can hear the full before and after demo for yourself at the link in the description. The app recently got a huge update and it's better than ever. So good, in fact, that it can take almost any atrocious voice recordings and make it sound great. They remove background noise, it cuts down on plosives, it fixes clipping when your gain is too high, it reduces reverb, removes clicks, pops, improves tone, and the level of the dialogue is even and consistent. So if I move around like this, which I sometimes do when I get excited, it'll fix all of that. It's super simple. Go to podsworth.com, click Get Started, drag and drop your audio files, or open them right from your smartphone browser. Customize your settings if you want, but honestly, the default works great for most podcast recordings. Here's the cool part. Enter code BUCK50, BUCK50 for 50% off of your first order. No account needed, just email and payment. Then you get the download link in your inbox with your cleaned up files. It's perfect for podcasts, YouTube videos, sermons, homilies, audiobooks, anything like that you want to sound legitimate and professional. Remember, use code BUCK50 for half off your first order. And you're supporting this show. Thank you, guys.
This is a Dissident Media production. DissidentMedia.net.
You're tuned into the Counterflow Podcast, home of dissident voices,
unapproved opinions.
But you gotta get ready.
You ready?
Now here's your host
and humble narrator,
Buck Johnson. Let's go.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back once again to the Counterflow Podcast. As always, I am your host and humble narrator, Buck Johnson, still coming to you from the barbecue capital of the world, Lockhart, Texas. I'm happy to have two guys on who have been on the show separately. They now have a podcast together, and it is called War Priest. We are going to explain what exactly that means and what they do on that podcast. So I'm having them both on. Friends of the show, Father George Hill and my friend Alex Braszko, who I will be seeing very soon at our Ludwell conference up in Stafford, Virginia. Looking forward to that. September is going to be a wild month for me travel-wise, and I'll get into that a little bit next episode. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do as far as these episodes go. I got to keep them pumping out, so we'll figure that out. So Father George Hill, as we explain in this, has finally been able to retire his illustrious military career, and he's enjoying life right now. I wanted to get some military guys on to discuss what does orthodoxy morality look like should we join the military? I shouldn't. If you're a young man listening to this, is it against our worldview? What if you're given an order and you're in the military and you're Orthodox and you feel it's something you shouldn't be doing? There's a lot of good nuance to be had here, a lot of questions I get into with these guys. What about these failed wars like the war in Iraq? Are all of these deaths lying at the feet of George W. Bush? What does that look like? What if George Bush was Orthodox? What would his priest discuss with him after these wars and things of this nature? There's a lot of good questions in this one, and it's not because they're mine. These are things people have discussed, I've heard discussed amongst peer groups, and it's a lot of things I've really just been wondering about myself. So I should stop rambling and get these gentlemen on. Both former guests of the show, I'm happy to welcome back, as now they have a new podcast together. Father George Hill and Alex Braszko. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Hello, Buck.
It's a pleasure to be back on Counterflow Podcast, Buck. Thanks for the invite.
And now that you're retired, I suspect it's golfing and podcasting. Am I close in that?
A few other things involved in there too that I won't mention. But yes, a lot of golfing, a lot of podcasting, a lot of just chilling and having a good time right now, to be honest with you. And also, last time I spoke with you, remember I was unable to talk about a few questions that you had. Well, those days are over. So you get me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the opinionated, the whole thing, man. I'm ready to go.
Love it. Good. I will allow you both to do a quick intro for who you are, what you do. And Father George, I suppose what you did do is relevant to this conversation.
Sure.
Again, happy retirement. But Alex, I'll let you go and then we'll get to Father.
Okay, thanks, Buck. Yep, so Alex Braszko, currently still working for the federal government in an organization where I do a lot of analysis and writing for the government on merging technologies, I would say is the way to say it. And basically here with Father George Hill, who is a friend of ours, not an old friend, but an old friend of ours. And from Germany, Stuttgart, Germany, when we were signed in Germany, he was our chaplain there. And so Father and I have had a good relationship, especially recently. He's been very helpful to us with the repose of my daughter, Lily. Father was there to help us out in a lot of different ways. And he actually communicated a lot with Lily, which we really appreciated there in those last few months. It was very helpful to her. But Father and I are working on a podcast called War Priest. And that is also a part of a bigger project, which is called the Faithful Centurion, which is a nonprofit that I'm starting up. Already have certification in the state of Missouri for it. But it's a nonprofit that's focused on providing assistance, resources, training, Orthodox networking, for Orthodox Christian service members that are geographically isolated around the world. There's not many chaplains out there, and I think Father's going to talk a little bit about that here. But the Faithful Centurion, it's going to be thefaithfulcenturion.org. We're hoping to launch the website on about 6 September. So if you want to check that out, if you're a military service member or even a vet or just someone interested in what the military is doing, considering it as an option, check out the website. Should be a lot of good resources there for everyone.
Wonderful. And Father George, before I get to you, I would just say, speaking of the Lily, she feels like a member of the Counterflow family too, because we all loved her. So God rest her soul. And Father George Hill, get to you, sir.
So yeah, I'm Father George Hill. I think I introduced myself previously on your podcast. It's been a year and change, I think, since I was on. But yes, I just recently retired on February 28th, 2025 from the U.S. Army after 30 years of service, 27 and a half years active duty, and the rest of it was early on in my career in the National Guard. So I was originally an armor officer, as a civil affairs officer, served probably the majority of my career on the airborne and special operations side. Most recently, I guess the past 18, 19 years of my career, I was an Orthodox priest and a chaplain. Retired at the rank of lieutenant colonel. Last gig was here at Special Operations Command Pacific, which is where I was when we last spoke, Buck. But I've been retired since February 28th and living in Hawaii. After all the places the Army sent me, they sent me here to Hawaii at the wrong season of my life. I remember getting off the plane and saying, this is where the truck breaks down, baby. I'm done. So here I am, playing a lot of golf, running my mouth on the podcast, and pretty much enjoying life right now. So thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. And Alex, you alluded to it a while ago. I just want to ask, so you guys met in Stuttgart, Germany, you said, and he was the chaplain.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I was what was I at the time, Father? Was I a major?
You were MI officer working at AFRICOM, as I
I
recall.
was. I was at US AFRICOM. I think I was in J399 doing Agisto stuff, integrated joint special technical operations, and doing a lot of real world planning for a lot of the things that a lot of people know about. Benghazi, Libya, all those things. Yes, we lived on Patch Barracks, which is where Father was serving in the chapel. And it was a small little chapel. But it was
a little chapel.
It was very, very cool to find an Orthodox community there. My son was actually baptized in the Russian Orthodox Church in Stuttgart, Germany. That my dad, when he was 19, he was a young GI, got sent to Germany. He met my mom at church in that Russian Orthodox Church in Stuttgart, Germany, and married her there. And yes, and many, many, many years later, my son Dmitry was baptized in that church with Father Ilya. So we've been to Germany quite a few times, just for deployments and everything else, and it's been great. But that's where we met Father. Yep.
Very cool. Alex, I didn't know your dad was Orthodox. I don't think if I did, it slipped my mind.
Yeah, my dad's our last name Braszko is Russian. It's actually, it's Ukrainian, but we lived in a Russian community in Howell, New Jersey, and went to St. Alexander Nevsky. That's where I was baptized, which is a RoCore church. So the Russian community, Ukrainian community, very tight. So when Putin says we're one and the same, he's not bullshitting people. It actually is. There's a lot of connectivity there, especially in people like my family and all throughout Ukraine that have family that's in Russia and vice versa. So, yep.
Whose idea was it to do the y'all's new podcast?
So, Father, you go ahead. Well,
that was Alex's idea, really. We've been talking about a number of things over the years, and specifically, just I guess within the last year or so of my time at SOCPAC, we were on the phone talking about a number of different things. I remember Alex said, "Father, you should be an influencer. You should be on a podcast, online, doing something like that." And I was like, "No, I'm not trying to do that sort of thing." Not only that, I'm in the military. I have a TSSCI. I work at Special Operations Command Pacific, and I got way too many complaints and opinions. And one of them's going to come out, and it'll probably be bad. Hit me up again after I retire, and sure enough, that's what happened. And so,
that's right.
Other than working on my handicap, I thought, okay, I guess the time is right, and I really don't have an excuse not to do this anymore. So here we are. We ginned up War Priest and kicked it off. Doing pretty well so far. Little inspiration coming from Buck and Counterflow Podcast as well. So here we are, and we're doing it, and having a pretty good time with it, I think.
So, Buck, if I could say, we're on our fourth show, and we're starting out small, right? Because that's how it is. Our goal one day is to be as big as you are. Maybe if we're lucky.
That'd be great. That'd be cool.
But there's already people. There's already soldiers, Marines, people that have reached out to Father George, which is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
They're emailing him. They've got questions. They've got life issues. They are in the military. They don't have anyone that's supporting them locally, depending where they're, assigned. So it's really what it's about, is getting Father George, his experience. We'll have other guests. Father George got a bunch of chaplain guests that we'll have on the show as well in the future. But we really just want to help.
Former soldiers, all that.
Yep.
Really
we're
cool.
We're trying to help them out.
We've got a new sponsor. It is Perfect Spiral Capital. This is the infinity banking concept. Break free from the system. Perfect Spiral Capital helps you build wealth on your terms, outside of the control of the corporate banking cartel and the state-manipulated markets. Invest like a dissident, a true dissident. Take ownership of your financial future with strategies designed for those who refuse to be cogs in the machine. No handouts, no bailouts, just real results. opt out, build wealth. The state inflates your savings away while Wall Street rigs the game. You guys know this. Perfect Spiral Capital helps you stack real assets and create lasting independence. Go to perfectspiralcapital.com/counterflow and get a special offer for fans of this show. Again, that's perfectspiralcapital.com/counterflow. Good. And I have so many questions, which I will get to on this, about sort of the relationship between military service, Orthodox Christianity. So it's sort of something I've wondered a lot about. I've actually asked several priests about this sort of thing. I was not in the military. I started the fire department when I was 19. So I just started my career. So, but it's something I've thought about a lot. I've had discussions about. We're going to get to some discussion topics that I've had with people that I tend to disagree with, but I could be proved wrong by you guys. Before we jump into some of these aspects of it, only because it seems to be something that you guys could both talk about, and it's been an ongoing topic the last, 3 or 4 episodes of my own, is masculinity. And I want to ask you both, obviously the military is seemingly a masculine sort of organization. Over your careers, did you see the type of man, we're eliminating females from this question, but for the sake of masculinity, did you see the type of man change over the years that were entering the military, or was it always sort of a masculine go-getter type guy?
Father, why don't you go first?
So let's see. I originally came in the military as a cadet at the Citadel, and most all the administration there, if not all, were World War II, Korea, and Vietnam vets. And every one of them, you could superimpose John Wayne or Clint Eastwood. They were all a bunch of badasses. We looked at them as the kind of men that we wanted to become. President of the Citadel at the time was James Grimsley, and he was a retired Major General from the Army. He had a Silver Star, a number of Bronze Stars with V device and a Purple Heart. He led an infantry platoon in 1st Infantry Division through the Hurtgen Forest in World War II. I guess it was a couple months after the Normandy invasion. I think that's where he got his Silver Star. But we had Vietnam vets. One of the colonels there was a company commander in the Marine Corps, Myron Harrington. I think there's YouTube specials on him. He won the Navy Cross at Hue City shortly after the Tet Offensive in '68. And these are the kind of guys that I grew up with and the kind of folks that I imprinted on. And they were superior people. I remember Lieutenant Colonel Harvey Dick was the assistant commandant at the Citadel. He was a Marine in World War II, enlisted Marine, and went to the Citadel, graduated, got his commission, and became an Army artillery officer. Served in Vietnam, I think was his last gig before he turned over and became the assistant commandant of the Citadel. But that was a scary man. He was a scary man, but he loved those cadets. I think there were maybe 3,500 cadets when I was there. Somehow or other, he knew everybody by name, and he knew your parents' name too. And if you were screwing around, doing, getting in trouble, whatever, he would drop your parents' names on you, like out of the blue. I don't know how he did it. One of the most manly men I ever saw that I imprinted on immediately was when I was a 2nd Lieutenant tank platoon leader, and it was 1st Sergeant Charles Douglas. He was 58 years old, about 6'4", 240. He was chewing tobacco and spitting it in his coffee cup. That's where I picked up that habit. So anyway, he didn't shake my hand when I first walked in there. He just spat in his cup, and he called me Lieutenant, never called me Sir, with a thick Tennessee accent. The first thing he said to me is, "Don't be dicking around with my troops, Lieutenant." And it took me a long time to get that man's respect, but when I finally got a beer at the table during a company training meeting, and he asked me what I thought about something, it took about a year for that to happen, but I felt like I'd arrived. What's coming in there today? Well, we've got some young studs. My son is an infantry officer. Was a college wrestler at the Citadel, all Southern Conference wrestler. Tough kid. Sailed right through Ranger School. And then we've got the folks that do not fit into that category. There are a lot of, shall we say, wimpier types that come into the Army and they want their accommodation. They want to be accommodated for this and accommodated for that. And, over the years, I started getting a lot of communication from some of the Orthodox and some non-Orthodox folks saying, hey, Father, you should get a religious accommodation and have a beard because you're an Orthodox priest. And matter of fact, there are a couple Orthodox priests out there, I won't mention by name, still serving on active duty that actually have a beard now. They got a religious accommodation. Well, that always rubbed me the wrong way, Buck. I don't know about everybody else, but I joined the Army to accommodate the Army and accommodate the nation, not for the Army to accommodate me. And I always felt like that. I always carried my own rucksack. I always packed my own gear. Jumped out of airplanes, JMPI'd. I did all that. Went to combat on my own. Never asked for anybody's help. Matter of fact, one of the things that used to aggravate me about being a chaplain is everybody wants to protect you when the rounds start flying. I remember sitting in the back of a Humvee. We got shot at. And the TTP back then was if you get in contact, maintain contact. So we go chasing them off down the dirt road. They're on their motorcycles. Must have been Ghazni province, like 2008. And then we'd run into a big firefight. In the middle of the firefight, this kid looks down from the turret, shooting a 50 cal. Chaplain, you okay? I was like, son, if you ask me if I'm okay one more time, I'm going to climb up there and whoop your ass. When I get done, I will take that 50 cal over and show you how to use it. So that used to piss me off a little bit. That was in the 82nd in 2006 to 2008. Now, as I just was leaving the military, Schofield Barracks was full of ponytails and full of beards. Different kind of folks. They want their ponytails and their beards, but they complaining about, their ACFT, their Army Combat Fitness Test. A little bit more of an entitled generation, I think, with a spattering of the young studs that hold the line. And that's kind of what I see. If that answers your question.
It does. Alex, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna show you a picture here. This guy right here. Some people in your audience may know it. This is Mike Vinning. Okay, he's a retired sergeant major of the Army. He was one of the first guys to join Delta Force. Now, I'm going to show you the picture. Think what you think about special operators, right? Operators kicking ass, taking names, right? This is one of the original.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I've seen him. Yeah.
Okay, there's memes out there about him, right? Okay, so that's the first thing I want to show you. Second thing I want to bring up is I just watched it last night. It was hilarious. It's like Full Metal Jacket being reviewed by people nowadays, the younger generation today, and they've never seen Full Metal Jacket. And specifically the scene that they're reviewing is the scene where the drill instructor's walking around in the barracks chewing people's ass, right?
Yeah.
And it's hilarious to old guys like me and Father because these people have never heard that, never seen it, never contemplated. They can't decide if it's real or not. They don't know anything about Lee Emery is his name, right, Father? They don't know.
Lee Ermey,
yeah. They don't know.
Ermey. He walks in and says, I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your senior drill instructor. From now on, the first and last words out of your filthy sewers will be, sir. Do you maggots understand me? Yeah. We had that whole thing memorized when I was a cadet at the Citadel. It came out in the 80s. And we would drop those lines on the knobs when they came in. The whole thing.
Don't do that nowadays, though. Doesn't happen now.
Today, they goodness, drill sergeant walked in and did that now, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Alex, he'd be under the bus. He'd be done. He'd be
done.
kicked out of the army, I think, for acting like that.
So I'm not saying that we all need to be drill instructors like that. I'm not even saying that the way he addressed things was appropriate. Maybe it was at that time in that situation. War is going on. There's a different mentality in the military during wartime than there is during peacetime, right? Father's shaking his head on that. What I'll tell you, Buck, is that two of the toughest men that I know, and I've met a lot of military men, are my dad and my father-in-law, because they did not get the type of support that you get nowadays.
Right. Yeah, we get a lot of support nowadays.
They-
Soldiers first, people first. They say that quite a bit. And sometimes they mean it and sometimes they don't. But yeah, there's a whole lot of that mentality out here that I'm here to be entitled. I'm here to be accommodated. And when was it they first started throwing out stress cards in basic training? I kept hearing about that like in,
Is it the 90s?
I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s. I never actually saw one.
Right.
But you hear about it.
So the point is, Buck, it's like a different type of toughness in the old days. It was like a real resiliency. We've got really sharp guys nowadays. We got really strong guys nowadays. And they're operators. They're kicking down doors. They're putting bolts between eyes. And they're doing their mission. And I'm not saying they're not tough. And they have a lot of shit they got to deal with post-ops, right? So they're dealing with PTSD like my father and my father-in-law have, right? But it's a different world. It's a different type, maybe of masculinity nowadays, I think, than what it was for my dad and my father-in-law. Them being masculine was sucking it down and working, 10, 12-hour days, 15-hour days, 6 to 7 days a week for freaking 42 years to provide for their family in a coal mine or in a freaking power plant or whatever it was. So it was a different type of toughness, different type of resiliency. We still have young, tough people who are kicking ass and taking names, but I don't know, Father, is it just different?
Well, we've had this term that has come up, I guess, with the progressive era, talking about masculinity and toxic masculinity and things of that nature. All those guys you mentioned, including your father, First Sergeant Douglas, Colonel Dick, that would have been characterized as toxic masculinity. And
Yes.
we keep getting steered away from this notion that masculinity is toxic, and to try to avoid that sort of a thing and be kinder and gentler and that sort of a thing. Nothing wrong with kindness and gentleness. And I guarantee your dad, Alex, was kind and gentle when the occasion called.
My sister,
right?
treated her like a princess. Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. But when it came to getting stuff done that needed to get done, well, damn it, we got to get this shit done. So we're going to do it.
Yep.
Right. And not trying to hurt your feelings, but if your feelings get hurt, I can give a rip. Right now, I mean, the job here is not to preserve your feelings. The job here is to get from point A to point B and get this mission done. And that's the way it is. Buck, I imagine it's like that in the fire department, isn't it?
Yes.
That fire doesn't care about your feelings.
Right. Yeah.
So come on.
I've seen a similar difference in the generations over the years. When I went through the fire academy, it was the hottest summer on record now still, except for 2011 here. And the blacktop was freshly paved, and we were, doing push-ups and cadence like you guys probably did. And we were spitting on our hands so they wouldn't blister on the hot blacktop. Well, fast forward in 2015, I went down there to help at the academy and run classes or run the stuff for the cadets. And I got there and they're like, so make sure all the cadets have gloves for their hands.
Right.
And so they don't, and it was not black anymore. It was like gray and faded. And I was like, they get gloves for their hands? Well, yeah, because the pavement's hot. I was like, oh my God.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Well, there's a million examples of that right there. However, I think, Alex, you brought up the garrison army versus the wartime army.
Absolutely.
Because we were moving in that direction long before GWAT, I think.
Mhm.
GWAT happens, Global War on Terror, 9/11. We all watched the Twin Towers go down, and there was a tremendous shift in the Army back to a war-fighting Army. Why? Because we have to. We have to. So when the rubber meets the road, I think what they say when the going gets tough, we call out the sons of bitches. And I think that might be a time immemorial type of factor that when the going gets tough, yeah, we need sons of bitches. When someone's burning alive or potentially about to die on top of a building that's on fire, well, it's not time for the dude that put the gloves on his hands so his hands wouldn't get hot while he was doing push-ups, right, on the grinder.
Right.
That person's life needs to be saved, and we need a tough son of a bitch who's fearless to go up there and not be worried about blisters on his hands or anywhere else for that. He's probably going to get blisters in his lungs.
Yeah.
Go pull that person out. Or they just die. So not really sure we're doing our country any favors or our society any favors in these types of jobs by making things soft like that, by making them more comfortable.
Right. I agree. Great new sponsor, tigerfitness.com/counterflow. That's your code to get in, support my podcast, and fuel your resistance. We all talk about standing up to people, standing up to the man, all of these things. Well, you can't do it when you're a couch potato. And let's face it, it's not vanity. It's taking care of your body, your soul, your mind, all of these things. Tiger Fitness provides high-quality supplements and training gear to keep you strong, independent, and ready for whatever comes next. Again, no weak bodies, no weak minds. At Tiger Fitness, there are kind of people. They reject corporate poison. They skip the junk peddled by big box brands and pharma-backed fitness scams. Tiger Fitness is built for those who take control of their own health and strength. I think that's you. I think that's me. I think that's all of us, guys. Self-sufficiency starts with strength. The state, the bad guys, the evil spirits, they want you weak, tired, and dependent. Tiger Fitness helps you break free by optimizing your performance and resilience. Again, you can support a business that is supporting me, supporting this podcast, and it stands for you. No woke BS, no corporate virtue signaling, all of the stuff that we hate, these guys hate as well. And so they are not like that. When you want to get in shape, they've got workouts on this website. They've got a lot of supplements, great energy drinks, all of these things that I'm kind of a part of most days of my life. It's for serious people who value discipline, taking care of your own, your family, and your body, self-reliance, and all of these things. tigerfitness.com/counterflow. You kind of walked me into what I wanted to ask you about, the global war on terror. One of the things I have thought about, had debates with about people, and I'd love to get y'all's take, the morality issues when it comes to, I would say being a Christian, but for this episode, let's say even an Orthodox Christian in the military. If you started at the very top, commander-in-chief, let's use George Bush for an example. I assume this won't get you in trouble anymore, Father George.
I can say whatever I want.
Commander-in-chief of the military maybe launches into an ill-advised war on Iraq, and I don't know, upwards of 1 million people die.
Yeah.
What is the morality when it comes to his position at the very top, as far as the Orthodox Christian view?
What is the morality as far as his position at the top? Well, being the commander-in-chief, he's responsible for all the nation does and fails to do, right? Being the chief executive officer. So I would say he is responsible for every one of those deaths that happened. And that doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad thing or a good thing. He's just responsible for all that happens or fails to happen. And a lot of people were killed. A lot of close friends of mine were killed. My next door neighbor at Fort Bragg, He was killed. Robert Lindenau is his name. So they were dear friends of ours. Lost numerous of others. So yeah, at the foot of all those coffins is George W. Bush. Rightly, wrongly, indifferently, he remains there. Whether he should have done that, whether it was advised or ill-advised. I mean, I took an ethics course called Just War Theory at University of Virginia when I was in the Army. And we can go and hack through all of those tenets of just war and figure out if this was a moral war or an immoral war, or not a moral war. We'd call it a just war, right? We can hack through that, and we can do that all day long, and we have, and we'll continue to do it. Michael Walzer wrote a book called Just and Unjust Wars, where he goes through a lot of the military history in the United States and talks about just and unjust wars, in his opinion, but he nails them all down, pretty logical regarding the tenets of jus in bello and just ad bellum, or jus in bello and just ad bellum, yeah. But as far as the morality, yeah, sorry, the commander's responsible for all that. And commanders from the President of the United States all the way down to the squad leader are responsible for everything that formation does or fails to do, be it just or unjust. That answers your question.
Alex, I have a follow-up, but would you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, Father's absolutely right. He's the commander-in-chief. He's the highest ranking person in our armed forces. That's his responsibility. It's we could have, and everything that Father's talking about, just so that the viewers know, if they want to deep dive into it, like listen to it, for an hour or so, they can check out the War Priest podcast. Probably the easiest way to Google it is like War Priest, First Things First, Father George Hill. It'll pop up because it's still fairly new, but he dives into that at length. There's no denying that our senior leaders in the Army and our senior politicians are responsible for the wars that our country has gone to. Some people would say they've been more wars of convenience than wars of necessity.
Yes.
Depending how you look at it, depending what part of the world you're talking about, right? Look at the repercussions of what takes place in those countries after they're decimated. And then some of the follow-up issues we have, the blowback, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So, by the way, this is all my personal opinion, right?
Yes.
It's a thing, and it's a extremely, important responsibility that they have. Something I'll say is, people look at soldiers as being the ones that cause wars. No.
Right.
We obey the orders, the lawful orders of those appointed over us. And so
a fireman causes a fire or a
Right.
policeman causes a crime. I might take you one step up. I might raise that, Annie, Alex, and say that the responsibility doesn't end with the President of the United States and the political authorities in our country. It ends with the American people, the voters.
Yes, that's right.
Y'all are the ones that voted these people in. They made clear their foreign policy and what they planned on doing and how they react to things like that. So we're all responsible, and the country is culpable as well.
And before we jump into war with Ukraine, saying, "Hey, we're going to be, quasi member of NATO," before we jump into, Gaza with IDF, Americans really need to think about American interests, right? And what is in it for us? Is it actually good for us? Is it not good for us? What's the long-term consequences? What are the strategic implications? All those things. Yes, the average American voter, my neighbors around me out in the boonies, have a responsibility to think about those things and not just those narratives. Yeah.
Not just vote for whoever's more handsome or whoever we don't like. I mean, Donald Trump says all the stuff. I mean, yeah, sure. He sounds like an asshole a lot of times. What does he believe and what's he going to do? I think is much more of a question. Or what's he going to not do? War with Ukraine and Russia. I mean, what an entirely unfortunate event that probably should have been stopped. What's going on in Gaza right now with the IDF? and U.S. foreign policy. A lot of this stuff, unfortunately, gets cast toward, and I don't know how far you want to spin off on a rabbit trail, but it gets cast on the military-industrial complex.
Yes.
Northrop Grumman, Boeing, KBR, Kellogg Brown and Root. There's just a lot of nasty little contract deals that are going on. And, war is good for those folks. And if you're a stockholder in Northrop Grumman or Boeing or whatnot, man, or Kellogg Brown and Root, war is great for you too.
Yes.
You're going to make a lot of money from it on the backs of these young studs that are going to go give their life and don't know what KBR stands for.
Yes.
But it's scandalous what goes on, to be honest with you. What do they say? When old men rattle sabers, young men die.
Oof.
But the old men get rich,
Yeah.
or they wouldn't be rattling the sabers in the first place.
Right.
So there's a lot of that, and I've seen a lot of that. I'm sure Alex has seen a lot of that. I'm probably more free to talk about what I've seen than what he deals with. He's still working. But I could go on and on. I could write a volume of books on some of the shady stuff that's gone on that I've seen up close and personal. And it has obviously framed my opinion about things. But even in spite of all that, because Alex will give me a phone call and complain for about 20 minutes nonstop about what he's seeing going on and why he morally, as an Orthodox Christian, shouldn't be involved in it. So we've had that how many times have we had that specific conversation, Alex?
Quite a few, Father. And every time I come back to your response, we need people who care, who it bothers to be in those positions, who are not very comfortable with doing those type of things, taking life and starting wars. That's exactly the type of people you want in those positions.
Absolutely. We do not need moral vacuums, moral vacuum-minded people running those things and doing those types of things. We need people there both at the highest levels of leadership and the lowest levels of leadership. Because perhaps the most culpable person is the E6 or the E6 squad leader or the 0102 platoon leader. Because it's like the lowest level of responsibility is also the most profound one. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
We used to talk about in law school that the person with the most discretion, from the police officer walking the beat all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, the one with the most discretion is the cop on the beat.
Yes.
So, he can do things and make decisions that the Supreme Court can't even do.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the fire department, we have a medical director. He's over EMS and fire. And we represent him as we're doing medical care on emergency calls. And I thought the other day, what a responsibility he sort of has, because we're the ones doing all the things. And if we screw up, he gets sued. It's a precarious position, I suspect it sometimes. Yeah. But that also creates an environment to make sure you're trained well and know what the heck you're doing. I want to ask, we'll go back to the commander-in-chief thing really quick. If, let's say, just use Bush again or Obama, either one, they both started wars that in hindsight people think were probably ill-advised, to put it lightly, let's say. If they were Orthodox Christians going to a parish and doing confession, what would priestly advice be? You need to repent somehow of what's happened? What would that sort of look like?
Are we talking about before the fact or after the fact?
After the fact. Okay,
so he probably went into, I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. If I was the priest, I would assume, because predictions are hard to make, especially about the future, Benjamin Franklin once said, that he didn't really understand the complete implications of what he was about to do. So after the fact, he didn't mean to do it, but it happened. A lot more people died than what he expected, a lot more damage, a lot more lives ruined. He just didn't see it coming, yet he remains responsible. As far as that goes, we'll go back to our discussion on economia that Alex and I had in our last episode. really that priest and that bishop are going to have to exercise economia with that leader to figure out what he should do and how he would repent from that. Make it especially interesting if he's still in charge.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to make calls. I don't know. You're the fire chief. There's a burning building. You got 10 dudes out there. You need 3 of them to go in. Nobody wants to go in, Buck. What are you going to do? Hey,
Right.
you, and you, get your ass in the building, right? They go up there and die. Well, now what? We should say, what now, Lieutenant? When I was
Yeah.
what now? What now, fire chief? But someone's got to make that call. What do? You just sent those men to their deaths. You knew that it was at least a 50-50 chance it was going to happen anyways. There are certain mitigating things that we try to do if we're honest brokers. But at the end of the day, we live in a fallen world and we don't always have a choice between good and evil. So we've got to do the best we can. And we need Christian men in those positions who are going to do the best they can. We need people to struggle with those decisions. If you're not struggling with those decisions, then I don't think you're fit for leadership.
Yes.
And you should probably go change tires somewhere or manage a Walmart.
Yes.
Maybe change tires.
Yes. I just wish the struggle would be sometimes at the very top of the chain. It feels like there's less of a struggle there and more of like financial influence or other country influence, because I do feel for the man on the ground, like you said, they have to do what they're told to do, and I don't know that they're given all the details. We certainly aren't in the fire department. We just do the job. I don't know what the fire chief's thinking about certain tactics we want to do or whatever. We just do what we're told. And there is a thing within the fire department, if an officer gives you an order and you're like, you can actually disobey it if it seems like it's going to put you at risk. And you just mentioned something along those lines, loyal disobedience. What is that, and how does that what's that look like?
So, most everyone is educated, and I'm making a guess on that now because I'm out. But everyone that I can think of coming up through the ranks in the Army knows that you do not obey orders that are either illegal, unethical, or immoral. So the illegal part's pretty easy. Well, it says right there, we're not allowed to do that. Unethical, that's regulatory. Well, it says Joint Ethics Regulation says we're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to shoot an individual with a 50 caliber machine gun, right? That's for equipment, right? Things of that nature. Immoral. Well, that gets a little stickier because that's going to be here, and that needs to be well educated. And we did a podcast. I think the second or third one we did on ethics in the military. Yeah. Why I dive into that a bit more. But yes, loyal disobedience. Do the American people want me to do this? Would grandma want me to do this?
Yes.
If I come home and tell grandma what I did, what would she have to say about that? That whole conscience thing.
If what you're about to do is printed on the front page of the paper, would the public be okay with what you did?
Would, yes, absolutely. And it very well might wind up on the front page of the paper.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
right.
Father, can you talked about in the podcast, but that's fine. Let's bring it up here. Being as as clever as a serpent, innocent as a dove, can you give us a situation where loyal disobedience might be applied in something like that?
Sure. I think I told the story about I had a young man. I don't know if I told this. If I told you, nod your head. But yeah, I was a battalion chaplain, 2508 in the 82nd in Ghazni, Afghanistan. 2:00 in the morning, NCO, and this kid knocks on the door. It's always at 2:00 in the morning. So I got this NCO, and next to him is a 19-year-old kid with tear streaks running down his face, and it looks like his uniform's hanging on him like a coat hanger, and he's in bad shape. Turns out he was legitimately suicidal, and I went to the battalion commander because we needed to get this kid out of here and get him up to behavioral health. Long, sad story involving marrying Trixie the stripper on Bragg Boulevard 2 weeks before deployment and giving her general power of attorney and that sort of thing, right? Then his best buddy dies in some horrific fashion and calls home to get some love from Trixie. And Jody answers the phone. Money's all gone. Trixie wants a divorce, that story, right? So anyway, kid's ready to kill himself. His 19-year-old life is over. So we need to get him some Ambien. We need to get him some sleep. We need to get him some professional help because the kid is shaking in front of me. I mean, just literally shaking. And I go to the battalion commander, and we might talk about this more when Brad McCoy comes on our episode next. But yeah, that commander, he said, "You know what I want you to tell him, Chaplain? Tell him this." And he flips me the bird.
Wow.
On behalf of me, we're not going to let this mother effer hold us hostage with his own GD life, effing pussy, this, that, and get his ass back out there. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Roger, sir. Yeah. Airborne, all the way through from the sky. So went around behind the battalion commander's back, got with the company commander. We got the kid up to Bogham, to behavioral health. So yeah, that's loyal disobedience. I think the American people would want that kid to get some help. Right?
Yep.
Not only that, my conscience demanded that he get some help. My conscience demanded that I do not obey the orders of that battalion commander when that went down. Furthermore, to save his ass too, if that kid kills himself, it's not going to brief very well in the 15-6 investigation that we knew about this, and I discussed it with the battalion commander, and he flipped me off. So put all those things together. That's an example of loyal disobedience. And there's thousands of examples like that. And the best way about it is being wise as a serpent, I guess, may have been one of my finer moments. Battalion commander never found out about that. He never knew anything about it. He went on his day.
Good for you.
So yeah, we handled that in-house with the company commander. So there's an example of loyal disobedience.
Yeah.
Many like it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Alex, you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, no, it's a great analogy. And that's a real world one. I mean, we were talking in our podcast about, how do you potentially delay, not completely, obviously disregard a direct order, but do what's in the means to cause the situation to go into the way that is moral or ethical by, the standards of truth and goodness. Yeah, I just that's a great analogy, Father. Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, harmless as a dove, wise as a serpent. There's a million techniques on that, and it's not the only time I've done something like that throughout my military career. And anybody that rises to the rank of lieutenant colonel or even sergeant first class has done something like that in their career. They were ordered to do something that was just really ridiculous and stupid. And two techniques, right? You can stand up in front of the boss, get nose to nose. No, sir, I'm not going to do it. That's one technique. I wouldn't recommend that technique.
You've done that, Buck?
Yeah.
And let me ask you, Father, real quick. Buck, when you did that, how old were you?
I was in my 20s, and it was a chief yelling at me, like, just to reposition. Well, put it like 2 feet this way. No, move over in a master stream. And I go, do it yourself. And I yelled at him and walked off. Like, if you're going to micromanage where I put a host stream, then you do it. That's what I thought.
Oh, yeah.
How'd that go, Buck? How'd that go?
It actually went fine. I walked off and I didn't get in trouble. And I'm still friends with that chief to this day.
Great.
Well, there you go. The other technique I would recommend is, Roger, sir, get right on that.
That's better, by the way, for those young people listening. Technique. That's better.
And then, it depends on, I remember I used to do a little mission analysis in my head. How bad does this asshole want me to do this thing that I don't want to do? He's going to have to want me to do it a hell of a lot more than I don't want to do it. So how much trouble is he willing to go through? Is he willing to take an hour out of his day and call me in and counsel me on paper? Is he willing to do that twice? We'll see. Most of the time, they're not. They're not going to do it. They don't want anything like that on paper.
Right.
So hey, how come you haven't done this thing I told you to do, Lieutenant Hill? Oh, you know what, sir? We've got all these priorities. We've got these mission essential tasks. We've got maintenance issues. But man, that's on my priority list. I'm going to get right on it, right? That's how you do that. Yeah. And that's how you make that happen. And a few weeks goes by. Next thing you know, the Joker forgot all about it in the first place.
Yeah.
So no harm, no foul. But at the end of the day, how much trouble does this guy want to go through to get me to do this thing that's immoral? And just play it out and see, you know? I mean, I've used the example of, in Auschwitz, right? I guess some NCO was told, here, take these Xylon B tablets and drop them in the Jewish barracks or drop them in the thing, kill these guys. So what if we had an Orthodox Christian that said, Roger that, sir. Yep, good idea. That's what we're going to do. Knowing that if he says, no, I think that's immoral. Well, sorry, you have to go all the way to Adolf Hitler to get that out. But right here at my level, I can say, Roger that, we'll get right on it. 2 weeks later, the Jews are still alive. Well, how come they hadn't been killed yet, Sergeant? Well, sir, the Xylon B tablets we got were all expired. And, we had to fix the ventilation ducts, so we had to get maintenance over here. Just all that stuff. There's 1,001 ways. And anybody that's been in the military or the fire department, they understand the word sham.
Yeah.
You can sham your way out of almost anything.
Yes.
Do it for a good reason. Don't do it because you're lazy, right? But to protect life, to guard your soul.
Yes.
By all means, sham away at that. That Joker's going to be gone before too long anyway.
Buck, I would say the same thing. Some of us experienced that during COVID, right?
Yeah.
Where
definitely.
These are the established requirements.
Right.
You will do them. And you had a couple choices, right? You could go confront and say, fungu, not going to do it. Then you've, face the repercussions. Or you could think of other ways of doing it. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. Yeah.
So,
I know
during
someone.
COVID at Schofield Barracks. Well, we couldn't have chapel services. And I was kind of operating somewhat, I would call it, as a freelance priest because I didn't have a bishop staring down my nose at me. And I just had services in my house. So we had 14 one week and we had 20 the next week. This kept going until my wife said, we can't hold all these people in our house and keep having liturgy. But I was like, well, as long as we're doing it, as long as we're not allowed to actually go do this in public, well, there's precedent for this. We'll do it in the house. No masks. Funny thing, in all that time, nobody ever got sick that attended my liturgy anyway. So I remember talking with the bishop one time and I was about to confess what I was doing. He said, stop, Father. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Really?
I was like, yep. I was like, cool. I will take that as your tacit blessing, as your constructive blessing to continue doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's how that went down.
Not to beat a dead horse, but my dad grew up in Europe, war-torn Europe, and was very familiar from our family what took place with our family, of what communism really was all about. And he said, there were people who could stand up and say, this is wrong. We will not tolerate that. And many of them became martyrs. Many of them are saints, right? And if that's your calling, that's your calling. That's awesome. But there were hundreds and thousands of babushkas who just kept their mouth shut, who preserved the faith and would baptize babies, right, in the river, out in the forest, somewhere with a priest or whoever they could to ensure that the faith survived, that orthodoxy survived. And, they weren't heroes, they weren't public heroes, but they did their job. So it's worth considering what that really means if we get into a crap situation like we did in 2020 again.
Yes. Yeah. Fair enough. We've got some new shirts, Counterflow with Buck Johnson on the front pocket, on the back. A beautiful graphic with, of course, dissident voices and unapproved opinions. You can see this on the YouTube version of the show, of course. We're putting the graphic up now. $30 flat fee. $30 gets you the t-shirt. The PayPal address is buck at counterflowpodcast.com. That is my PayPal. You can send $30 that method. Send me your address and the size you want. We have sizes small through 2XL. Again, sizes small through 2XL. Go to PayPal, $30 buck at counterflowpodcast.com. Give me your address in there and the t-shirt will be yours. I want to ask about, I almost feel like an outsider again, because I started the fire department at 19. Orthodox Christianity, you've got a young Orthodox Christian man, let's say, and he says, Father George or Alex, I kind of want to join the military. I don't want to, a lot of us in this world are based, if you will, or if they're saying something, I don't want to work for the military industrial complex, or I don't want to take orders essentially from Israel and do this for the wrong reasons. I actually want to serve a country. How do you talk to someone who's wondering something like that? And is there room within Orthodoxy to, let's say, be quote unquote loyal to America? Is there this tension there that's like, well, I can't make an idol out of the US government or my nation or this flag if I'm Orthodox? There must be some sort of tension there. And how would you talk to someone about this stuff, Father?
Well, if there's room in Orthodox Christianity for soldiers to be loyal to the Roman army under a pagan emperor, i.e. Constantine, then there's room for us to do it here. I think that's historical precedent. It's also holy tradition. So, they're not asking you to burn incense to the gods. Yet, Orthodox Christians served in formations where they did everything they were supposed to do, but they drew the line at burning incense to the gods. But they didn't quit military service, and they continued to serve, many of them honorably. Goodness, the 40 martyrs of Saint Sebastian, it just goes on and on and on. George, Demetrius, Theodore, Stradulatus, it goes on and on. So the precedent is very much there, and it's obviously there. Okay, we don't even need to go into it. This is holy tradition. We all know this stuff. So my question for that young man is, do you not want to go in the military because of moral reservations with the military industrial complex and whatnot? Or are you just a pussy?
Right.
Which one is it?
Old school.
So we had our bishop up, Bishop Seraphim, who we all love, at our parish recently, and he gave a talk. He had a really interesting talk about growing up in Yugoslavia, seeing the effects of, communism's influence on Yugoslavia. And he talked about his length of time that he's been here, a good portion of his life. And he said, I am 100% Serbian. I am proud to be Serbian. I'm, Orthodox, and, I'm proud of the tradition and the faith and all that stuff and where it come from. I'm 100% American. I'm proud to be an American, right? And the best thing you can do for your fellow Americans is pray for them, introduce them to Orthodoxy. I don't see why you can't do that in the military. You sure can. And there are Orthodox Marines, soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardians right now who have that faith, who are learning about that faith and sharing that faith with inquirers, potential catechumens. And so it's taking place in our military right now. And like Father says, we just took a young man out to dinner about 2 days ago who was seriously considering the military, but not sure if it's the right thing to do. It's like, he's so devout, he's looking at, going hanging out at a monastery, or, does he need to join the military? The military's got a lot of great things for people who have nothing in this world. And that's a fact, right? Financially, educationally, insurance-wise, health-wise, there are a lot of bennies there that a lot of people don't have and really could use. My dad came from a lower class, and the military got him up to that next level. Okay. And he really appreciated that, memory eternal. He appreciated that. But there's a lot of benefits to being in the military, and there's no reason you can't be the salt and the light of the earth in the military.
Right.
We need that.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess another question is, this brings up, I think, Buck, you hit on it in your question. Is it okay to be an Orthodox Christian and be loyal to America?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand how that's even a question. The leadership does this. The American leadership does that. They're immoral. You know what, Joker? You're freaking voting for them. This is one of the places in the world where we elect our own leaders. So if they're doing that and you didn't vote, well, I guess you're wrong there. And if they're doing that and you did vote, then you voted for the wrong person, or get involved in the political process, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very rare in the history of Orthodox Christianity where we got to be involved in the selection of our own leaders.
Yeah.
So furthermore, let's take a look at this country. Why would we not be loyal to this country? I mean, look at us, just at our pictures here on the camera. None of us is in a Bedouin tent or in a rundown shack. We are all upper middle class, and middle class America, that's easy to get into. Nowhere else do you have this. I mean, if you don't like America, well, let's send you to Gaza and see what you think about that. Don't like America, let's send you to Afghanistan, see how you like that. Or any number of these countries in the world. I mean, Western civilization, we only make up the minority percentage of the world's population. The rest of the people would love to be in America. So why would we not be loyal to our country and our way of life?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it. These folks that sit back, I guess keyboard warriors, want to badmouth America. Well, I mean, I hate to beat the or kick the dead horse, but you don't like it here, man. You can go. Yeah. Go somewhere else. Go to some third world shithole somewhere if you want. But if you're gonna be here, I think you should be involved in some kind of way, some kind of service, something. I mean, I'd be in favor of mandatory conscription as far as that goes. Some kind of public service. Do it.
It reminds me of, I saw a picture. It was kind of a famous picture during the LA riots a few months ago when they were rioting against ICE. And this one guy in the street had this big Mexican flag, and someone wrote, "Please don't send me back to the country of the flag I'm waving." It's like, well, I mean, it's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason that they're here, huh?
Apparently. Yes.
So come on,
Alex, thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, something else that our bishop said when he came a couple days ago was, give to Caesar's that which is Caesar's, give to God that which is God's, right? You can serve your country. You can be an Orthodox Christian. Hopefully you're wise enough to know that your faith is your first priority because it's eternity, right? Sure. But if I don't think that this generation right now appreciates how much many people that came before them came to this country for the opportunities, the freedoms, and the things that we still can do today in this country that you cannot do in other places. I've got a good Orthodox influencer up in London, and I talked to him, and I was like, "Hey, how's it feel there, man? Do you feel like you got a lot of freedom?" And I was shocked at his surprise. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, we don't assume we have all these freedoms. We know we don't have all these freedoms, and so we take it for granted. I think
so too.
So we got to appreciate what we got. Thank God we have what we have.
Yes, even I won't say his name just out of respect, but a priest I was talking with a few months ago said something along the lines. It's something that shocked me about how he was getting attacked for this or that, or I got to be careful with. And I was like, "What? You do?" And he calls me Seraphim, my baptismal name. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Oh, Seraphim's so cute. He's in his little bubble in Texas in Rocor, and doesn't understand like there's a lot of crap that happens outside of certain bubbles that we get ourselves sunken into. So I do hear you there.
Right.
Well, we've been going just over an hour, barely. So we will cut this one here shortly. But you guys have to plug away at anything you'd like. Alex, if you want to talk about that 501c3, anything really, you guys.
So again, the 501c3 is the Faithful Centurion. There are a lot of projects we're doing. We're getting it set up. Like I said, we've got the Missouri certification. We're getting the federal certification. We've got the bylaws, mission, all that stuff in place. We're working on the website right now. And we are also continuing on with the podcast with Father Warpriest. He can talk about that. But the intent is to provide a resource, a place to go for Orthodox Christian service members in all the different services. This is joint, right? So Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Space Force. Basically, we're going to have videos on how do you do an akathist if you don't know anything about doing an akathist, right? The topics that Father's addressing are crucial to understand. And if you haven't had that kind of training or experience or even mentorship, Father George and the other chaplains are the experts on it, speaking from an Orthodox Christian perspective. So check that out. We are working on a pocket prayer book. We're working on a field, ruggedized, can take water prayer book with prayers specifically for the military. There's prayers before PT, we're finding out. There's prayers before battle. There's prayers, you name it, very relevant to military. So we're going to try to create that. Just a lot of good references and resources on it. And the website will be launched about September 6th, thefaithfulcenturion.org. After the Faithful Centurion that asked God to heal his servant, and Christ marveled at his faith, from Luke and Matthew. So that's all I want to plug at this time. Father, go ahead.
So, Warpriest, I'm having a lot of fun with that, with Alex. Got some really good guests on so far, more to follow, interesting conversations, war stories, how to TTPs, being an Orthodox Christian in the military. We're having a lot of fun with that. I think it's beneficial. And plug out there for Warpriest if you're into this sort of a thing and you want to hear conversations along those lines. We'd love to have you there. And certainly grateful to Buck for having us on here and letting us give a shout out. So appreciate what you're doing also, Buck.
I appreciate that. And I love the show. Everything about it's good. It's a topic, like I said, I've thought about a lot and asked priests about. And it's like, well, cool. Now I get to hear something on it every week. So I'm thankful for you guys. And this happened. We're at an hour and 5 minutes and it felt like we just started. So we're going to we'll have to do more of these because
Definitely.
I write like 20 things down to discuss, which I did this time. And I asked like 7 of them. So we will have some more of these discussions. Alex, Braszko, Father George Hill, thank you guys so much for being here on Counterflow, and we shall talk soon.
Thank you for having us on, Buck.
Thanks.
Appreciate
God
it.
bless.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed the chat with my guys from the Warpriest podcast, Father George Hill, Alex Braszko. Thank you guys once again. And as far as this channel goes, subscribe, like, all of these things. I'm not good at promoting myself in that manner, but it does help the algorithm. You can follow me on X at BuckRebel, BuckRebel, where I had a very, very kind shout out from the great Aaron McIntyre last week. So for those who followed me from that shout out and are new to the show, welcome. I'm glad to have you aboard. Until next week, you guys have a good one. Like the sound of the Counterflow podcast? Our audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.